So I read this quote a while ago and it has still stuck with me. It goes like this: anyone can do any amount of work, provided it isn't the work that they're supposed to be doing at that moment. And the moment I read that quote, the only thing that came to mind was this video. Because you see, I have been procrastinating this video for a long time. I mean, it's still within the weekly time range of when I have to crank out a video a week, but this particular week I was actually out of ideas. I didn't have any ideas. I looked through my Roam database and Notion database of ideas and videos pages and tried to piece something together, but nothing was just seeming to come up. It wasn't organic and natural as it was in most of my previous videos. So I was on the verge of giving up, which is when I texted a few of my friends and I asked them that, hey, I literally don't have any ideas for this week. Do you have any suggestions or recommendations on what it is that I could make a video on? Because I think I have to be consistent for a while on YouTube, and that is what I'm just trying to do. There's no special aim that I'm going for, but just to be consistent for a while. And they said that, well, you should make a video on the importance of deliberately wasting time on certain occasions. And the reason, the space that they came from when they suggested this was because they actually invited me to play a really stupid game a few days ago, which is pretty mindless. I think I should share a screen share of what that game actually looks like. And I did that after a long while. I don't usually play online games, and just doing that was fun for a change. That really got me thinking about this whole idea of procrastination, and that really led me to this concept of deliberate or structured procrastination, which is what this video is about. So in this video, I wanted to share what is structured procrastination and the three elements of why we should, if at all we have to procrastinate, do it deliberately and in a structured manner. So I was thinking a lot about this, and I think there are only three elements to deliberate procrastination that make it deliberate and that make it into a legit activity. They are prioritization, self-deception, and deliberate action. And I'll get to them in a while, but before we dive into this entire concept, what is deliberate procrastination? So deliberate procrastination is the idea that you actively and deliberately put off or procrastinate something that is super important by deceiving yourself into believing that there is something that is virtually more important in that period of time. Just by doing this and reshuffling your priority list, you're actually getting stuff done, but you're also procrastinating. So you're essentially hitting two birds with one stone, because you are procrastinating, so you feel as if you are just wiggling your way out of important work. But at the same time, you're also being productive because you're actually getting some of the work done, but which is not so meaningful, but still at the end of the day, you're not just wasting time. So I think I'd like to draw a distinction between just wasting time and procrastinating mindlessly, which is what most of us end up falling into, and deliberately or actively procrastinating by reshuffling your priority list and deceiving yourself into believing that something is more important than what you truly know is important in a particular period of time. So with that said, let's move on to the key elements of deliberate procrastination. The first one, as I said, is prioritization. One of the things that I've learned with work and with school is that you actually end up prioritizing every single second of your day. You prioritize when you study for one class and not the other. You prioritize when you do some task that is core to your work and you put off something that is related to, let's say, life admin. And you prioritize when you decide to whether hang out with friends or just stay at home and read or do something that you feel is productive. And every single second you are prioritizing. But in deliberate procrastination, what you actually do is you reshuffle your priority list by putting those tasks that are not that important, not that urgent, or important but not urgent right up into your priority list. So if you've seen the Eisenhower matrix, which I'll show somewhere over here, you'll see that we often end up doing tasks when we do procrastinate and we mindlessly procrastinate. We end up doing tasks that are urgent but not important, because when they were important but not urgent, we actually didn't think of doing them. So we actually mess up the Eisenhower matrix and we end up coming into a position where we end up doing tasks that we didn't really want to do, that is when we are in the urgent, not important state, which is not that ideal. But if you deliberately procrastinate and you deliberately reshuffle your priority list, you're actually getting stuff done and you're doing stuff that is important, not urgent. So you actually never end up being in the state where you are just cranking out stuff that is urgent but not important. And so I think that framework and that understanding really helped me procrastinate deliberately and do it much better. So that's the first element of what deliberate procrastination is. The second element is self-deception. What do I mean by that? Well, I think as humans, we are really good at telling ourselves stories. We are natural storytellers. We tell ourselves stories each time we do any action, each time we go for a walk, each time we don't get what we wanted, or each time we do get what we wanted. We are really good storytellers because we're great at taking something that may be inherently random, converting it into something that fits our own worldview, and then telling it to ourselves again and again so that we actually come to believe it. And so in deliberate procrastination, you have to actively deceive yourself. And while that may not be that beneficial in most walks of life, if you deliberately deceive yourself into believing that you are procrastinating when you're really just reshuffling your priority list to get other things done, I think it's positive self-deception. So I don't know if it's sustainable or if it can be held up in the long term, but this is something that I end up falling into at some points. I think only time will tell whether this is really a sustainable element and strategy of deliberate procrastination. The third and most important element of this concept is deliberate action. Deliberate action is probably the only thing that distinguishes deliberate procrastination and mindless procrastination to the nth degree. Because when you're deliberately procrastinating, you're actually taking some action. You're not just mindlessly wasting away time. Sure, you might be doing the not so important or important but not urgent things at that moment, but at least you are doing something. You're taking action. You're not being a victim to just be lazy. And I'm not saying that being lazy or taking a day off or so or just resting is inherently bad. What I am saying is that not knowing that you're resting or not knowing that you are consciously being lazy is somewhat counterproductive to our long-term goals. So knowing that you are deliberately taking action and then actually acting on your task list is something that is immensely useful, especially when you're actively and deliberately procrastinating. So I think these were the three elements, and this was the entire concept that was really brewing in my mind over the past 2 days or so. And I'm really happy that I was able to do this video, and thanks for watching.